Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the Real Collective podcast. As always, I am Sean Tassay, joined by my illustrious co-host and fellow suit jacket wearer, Kyle Miller. Kyle, double suits, how you feeling?
Oh, living the dream
Are
today.
you
Living the dream.
Harvey Specter or Mike? What's the guy's name? Mike what?
Uh, I
Ross.
actually don't know Mike's last name. You know what? I've watched more of that show through Facebook and TikTok clips than I've never actually sat down and watched that show.
I
And I can tell you lots about what happens.
I'm front to back on it. Mike Ross is his name. Yeah. So
That's it.
yeah, man. Spring market is here. I don't know about you, but it is feeling busy. I am doing work at time slots where I normally would not do time slots just to get everything in. March break over, and Easter is like, by the time this launches, it'll be like going into Easter weekend, which is typically the unofficial start of the spring market, right? So like we're in it. Spring is today. Today we're recording. It's March 12th.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, today or tomorrow, right? Like the first official day of spring. So it's like it's go time, So you're buying, you're selling. It's time to do it. Things are picking up. You must be seeing a lot more stuff coming across your desk.
You know what? Quite honestly, it's hit and miss. It depends on the week, and it's. I feel like it is active, but at the same point, when you think about it's there's still not a lot of buyers, right? The ones that are out are out. Houses that are priced well and selling, and things are moving. But I still feel like there's a lot of buyers sitting on the fence, quite honestly, and worried about that. Well, just worried in
They're,
general.
well, I think they're waiting for the rates to come down, right? Like there's a lot of talk saying, oh well, we expect them to come down. There's another rate announcement that is supposed to happen beginning of April, I think April 10th. But the rates aren't going to drop then, right? So, oh yeah, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this. You can book an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links, and you can listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you download the buyer or seller guides below. There's someone uh, someone I was talking with, another banker, and you said the same thing. There's a really neat program that allows you to buy now and take advantage of a bit of a lower rate, but it's a bit of a handcuff deal, right? So break.
Yeah, yeah. So the big thing is that the interest rate's obviously part of the thing, right? But part of your calculations. But the big thing that always hurts everybody is the stress test because it's 2% higher. And I mean, I've done deals where a 5 basis point swing, 10 basis point swing makes all the difference. Like you qualify, you don't qualify for 10 basis points. Like that's 0.1%.
Yeah,
So it's kind of that tight. So with this offer, you're going to get 0.5% less than or more. I think I've seen some online that are even more, but the 0.5% less. So you're talking 4.5% or something like that for 6 months. Well, you qualify at at what that would be today 6.5%, which makes all the difference if you're really going to be at 5% and then qualify at 7.
yeah,
So it'll definitely help get some people into the market. But that same 0.5 point swing, you have to renew with that same lender within the next 6 months to whatever their interest rates are. I have to double check. It's most likely into a 5 year. So if you don't want to take a 5 year, that can be a thing. And if you don't renew back with them, they'll hit you with I think it's a minimum 1% penalty. So if you've taken a $600,000 mortgage, right,
yeah,
you're going to see a $6,000. Actually, no, what is that? 10% of 60s.
yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
60,000.
No, no,
Holy,
6,000. No, 6,000. No, 1% is of.
yeah. Bankers not doing well here.
It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
yeah, 6,000. You're right.
$6,000 penalty. $6,000 penalty to get out of that. So, and yeah, and that could be. I have to check again. I don't like those types of deals, so I don't talk about them much. But you'd have to check and see if there's a regular penalty plus an additional fee to it, which would be gnarly.
So yeah, so from what I understand, you do you know which bank is offering it? Do you remember which one it was?
Yeah, there's a couple. It's a non-bank lender.
That's fine.
It's Marathon, I think.
Yeah. So you've got to renew with, but they put it at a bank? Question mark. They started with them and then they put it at a bank, or you have to renew
No,
with Marathon,
you have to renew with Marathon.
or whoever it is. But from what I understand, it's not just that you have to renew with them; it's that you have to renew with them at their posted rate plus 5 basis points. So everybody else in 6 months is, let's say they're getting, I don't know, 4.75, for example. You're paying 4.8.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
which now the one good thing about a place like, and not to trash Marathon at all. A good thing about, and this is actually leads into a different conversation slightly, but did you know the big six have two rates? Okay. The big six banks have two rates. They have the posted rate and they have their discounted rate. If you walked into a bank today, you'd see a posted rate on a 5-year fixed at like 6 something%. And you're like, no way am I paying that. And they get to look at you and say, Sean, we like you, brah. You're not going to pay that. And you're like, damn right. And you're like, yeah. And you feel like you've won. And that's great because they give you the discounted rate. This goes off track for a sec. But when they calculate your penalty, because you decided to break your mortgage early, especially now that you're going to see interest rates drop, and you're like, I'm out of here, man. Like this makes so much sense for me to break my mortgage and get 4% rather than stay here at 5.2%. When they calculate your penalty, they go, whoa, whoa, whoa. We gave you a 1.5% discount or a 1.2% discount.
Yeah.
We need that back too. So so when we calculate their penalty, we're jacking your rate back up to the top. So it hurts way more to get out of a fixed rate mortgage at a regular big six bank than it does to do a non-bank lender or mortgage finance company like a Marathon. So their posted rate is just like that. It'll typically, not always, it'll typically be a discounted rate that's highly advertised. This is what they're doing as a special. And you'll pay that rate plus 5 points on top of it. 5 basis points on top of it. So it won't be too bad. It's just got to fit.
Hang on. Is the lingo to call them beeps?
Yeah.
I love that. 5 beeps.
Yeah.
I never heard of that. I've heard like bips, but I've never heard beeps. I think beeps sounds a lot of, yeah.
Yeah. I just got an idea for a shirt with Roadrunner spitting out beep beeps all over the place.
There it is.
Record it. I'll get back to it.
Isn't it meep meep? Like, isn't it meep meep?
Ooh. Okay, now it's done.
Hey, still, you know what? You put Roadrunner on the shirt, people will understand it.
They'll get the joke.
You can put your face on the Roadrunner.
Oh, we're just spitballing marketing here. Holy, woo! Look at us.
Welcome to our marketing angle of the Real Collective Podcast.
There you go.
What we wanted to really talk about today, I think that's a really neat program for some people. Like you said, the fact that they might be able to qualify for something now that they might not have been able to qualify for otherwise because of that 50 basis points. That's a big swing. And if that gets them into a house and that's the only way that they can do it, then that gives you a lot more qualifying power, which sort of semi equals buying power, right? So a neat program to get in if you need to get in. But what we want to talk about today, okay, go. I feel like I was cutting off.
Yeah, it's all about the fine print. Like we want interest rates to be so much more impactful than they are, right? Because again, there's two sides to that. There's qualifying for the mortgage, and the stress test is what's putting the absolute pressure on it, which is why that rate needs to be dropped. And then there's actually paying for it.
Yeah.
Right. So we want that drop in interest rate to be so much more impactful on our day-to-day life. I just did the numbers on this actually, and it's like a 5 basis point swing. So from 5% to 4.95. I mean, people would jump out a window like from away from me if I offered them 5 and the next guy offered them 4.95.
Yes.
Right. Because it's like, they're like, oh my, it's so much money. Per 100,000, it's $2.76. There you go. So like, and they're like, yeah, but multiply that by 6 for my $600,000 mortgage. Okay, it's $15.
Yeah.
I just, like adding the cents up.
but it's $15 per month for the
True.
next 5 years.
100%. You still so even then you get stuck in the marketing and you're like, oh, it's only $2, it's only $15. Yeah, times 12 times 5,
So
right? So
yeah,
it adds up.
it's 900 bucks.
Yeah. So it better. So I'm not saying spend it. I'm not saying you should just spend $900 more. But what are some of the nuanced things? Like that, it's a great example to say, okay, Scotia's offering you 4.95, and I'm going to get you 5%. If you have to break that at 3 years, you will not save that $900 by being at Scotiabank.
Yeah.
Right. No offense to Scotia. Thanks for the approval. Just came in. I'm just saying. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. Right. Like that's the thing. You know.
You're giving away flexibility for money, which might not be impactful. Who knows? But who knows what your life's going to be like in 3 years? So
Yeah.
you might save 900 bucks, but have to spend an extra 3,000 on the way out. Risk
Yeah.
reward, right?
Yeah. So have those conversations. Make sure they're telling. Make sure the person doing that financing is telling you that. The bank typically won't tell you about that penalty calculation.
Right.
I just blew a guy's mind yesterday telling him about that. He's like, that doesn't happen. I'm like, okay, I'm lying. Sure. But anyway, yeah.
So yeah, no, and that's, hey man, I get it. What I wanted to talk about today was and this might be more the second half at the pace we're going here. What we're talking about today is not having your house sold out from under you. So that's the idea of the show today, right?
Fine.
Don't let someone else sell your house, right? So we'll talk a little bit about title insurance. We'll talk a little bit about selling a matrimonial home with and spousal consent, what that means to you. A few of my neighbors actually have said, "Oh well, I'm transferring title." One of my neighbors, her partner passed away, and she's like, "Well, I'm just transferring title to my own name." I said, "Well, what do you own your house? Like, are you going to refinance it?" She's like, "No, I don't owe any money on my house." I'm like, "Well, do you have title insurance on it?" "No, I don't have title insurance." "Why would I need title insurance?" I'm like, okay, here we go. And this is like just sitting out on the driveway talking about title insurance. She's like, oh, wow, really? I didn't know all of that. And you wouldn't, right? So I guess if 50% of people in, in Canada don't have mortgages on their house, maybe you should think about title insurance, right? What else can you get with that? All that sort of stuff. And then we were just talking with our lawyer recently about doing FINTRAC, which is something that we have to do for our clients, and them doing online deal processing, and how you need 2 pieces of ID, and they need to be valid pieces of ID and not expired. And if you're doing it remotely, how to do it. So we'll talk all about that in the second half, because I think we're pretty much busted for the first half here.
Oh, there we go.
So we'll get into it in the second half. Yeah. So that's I think that's about it. The idea is don't let someone else sell your house. So, and I know you've got a couple stories in that regard as well. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right. Well, enjoy these words from our sponsor. We'll come back and have a quick chat about some really exciting things and ways to protect your largest investment, potentially, probably, likely. And hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this kind of conversation. And we enjoy these words from our sponsors. You can book an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below, and you can download the buyer or seller guides below. And we'll catch you on the flip side. This episode of the Real Collective Podcast is brought to you by Real Collective Marketing, the marketing agency that specializes in the unique needs and budgets of small to medium-sized businesses. We provide turnkey marketing solutions that get results. We become an extension of your team and act as your virtual marketing department, designing and implementing cost-effective strategies that will help grow your business. You can find out more today at www.realcollectivemarketing.ca. Now, here's your hosts, Sean and Kyle. Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the second half of the Real Collective Podcast. As always, Sean Tassay, joined by Kyle Miller. Deuces to you. Peace out. Peace out. Yeah. We're having some fun off air. You guys will never know the fun that we have when we're not recording. We are recording everything. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who you think might like this kind of conversation. And this is all about don't let someone else sell your house. Hire me. Just kidding. But not really. Also hire me. Uh, main point here is the first point's about matrimonial houses. If you have a house and you live in it with your spouse and your spouse is not on title, they must sign a piece of paper. They must sign the listing agreement and the agreement of purchase and sale saying, yes, you can sell this house. The idea being, historically, men would own the house and women would live there. And way back when this was an issue, 20 years ago, maybe more than that. As soon as women before women's lib, I don't know. But men would go and be like, okay, I'm selling the house and I'm leaving you, wife. Good luck with those kids. I'm going to start my new family. But you can't do that, obviously, right? So that's the idea behind spousal consent, because women weren't allowed to own property before, right? Or they didn't, or having them on the title would have no value to the bank because the bank says, well, you don't make any money because you work out of the house, right? Obviously, things have changed a lot now, where most couples have both people on title. But in the instances where they don't, that's the reason for spousal consent, specifically for a matrimonial home, is that you can't go and sell it from underneath your spouse. Right?
Yeah, and it works. There's a weird section where it crosses like marital law and which I guess real estate law,
Yeah,
right? As to how that has to work.
yeah,
It goes the opposite way too of um so and for example, uh if you kept that scenario, the wife in that scenario, unfortunately, would not even be considered a first time buyer
right.
if she wasn't on title. She's owned a home before. And they're like, well, no, I was never on title. Yeah, but you lived in it for so long that it became part of the marital process where you're entitled to half. Therefore, you own that home, even though you're not on the mortgage.
Wow.
So if that, and we see it a lot actually where people are like, you know, uh, so whatever, guy owns home, girlfriend moves in, they live together for however long, 3, 5, 7, 10 years.
Yeah,
And they're like, hey, it's time to buy an investment property.
yeah,
So and now they have savings, which is great. And she says, well, I want to go to buy my first home. Okay, but fine, but you own another home. No, I'm not entitled over there. Okay, but you still own another home. You gotta live somewhere. Gotta
wow.
live somewhere.
I didn't
So
I didn't know that. I thought that if you weren't on title, you could get your. I didn't know that. I did not know
now
that.
let's be very clear. It can get very gray. And how do they find out? And there's a bunch of stuff. At
Right.
the end of the day, that's legally how it essentially happens,
Hmm.
right? Is that you own a home. If you're gonna get money for leaving that house, you're going, for splitting up,
Right.
you own a home.
Huh. Interesting.
So yeah, it's how the marital, like I said, there's this weird thing with marital law and real estate law and how they intersect for stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. We see that, especially when people are splitting up, right? You were telling me about you can't get a mortgage until you have a separation agreement.
Oh yeah, I literally put together a flow chart for realtors today, just in terms of like you want to qualify your leads, and if you're married and listening to this, just so you're clear too, you want it if so directing it to the realtors, if you meet a client and they're like, hey, it's too bad, but we're getting separated, we want you to sell the house. Hey, you can go out and find us each a house, right? Great. First question you're gonna ask after you say like, oh, sorry to hear that, is do you have a separation agreement? No, we're kind of working through that right now. Call me when it's done. Call me when it's done. Because until it's done, you will not, you you most likely can't do anything unless the one of them leaving, can afford both homes, the matrimonial home and the new one on paper, and that the spouse that's being left will sign that says, I know that other one's buying the house, you won't get a mortgage. You won't get a mortgage.
And it's sort of say, but it also gets messy, right? So they might say, oh yeah, I'll do it, and then not do it. So yeah, better, yeah.
Yeah. And that's also why the bank says, no, get that done, right? Get that done. And don't get me wrong, I've got people approved for mortgages. We've gone through every piece of paper. We got everything sitting there ready to go to fund. And the only thing left was a signed separation agreement, and that's what held up the whole deal. So we can do everything up to that, but the bank will not release money till they see a signed separation agreement.
Right.
There's the odd time where they can make an exception. I've had people who are separated or divorced, and it's been 10 years. They're older. There's no money going out. The kids are older, because that's what they're worried about. They're worried about two things. One, that you have to pay, whoever they're financing has to pay, and that gets treated as a debt. That doesn't hide anywhere. So they have to pay, which therefore, hurts their debt ratios and their affordability. And that an ex-spouse could come back and go after the bank saying, I didn't know about this house and I want a piece of it, and it messes up the bank's asset, and now they're in a heap of shit they don't want to be involved in. Yeah. So they'd sooner you guys live in misery than them get involved in that. And that's literally that's the way they think. That's the way it is. So sometimes, if it's been long enough that you've been apart, we can get something drawn up legally that says, hey, I'm not, I don't pay anybody. Everything's fine. That's it. But that's definitely been a thing.
Yeah. The bank is not your friend. They want to make money. The end.
So unfortunately, do what you got to do to be safe and happy and moving forward. But until you have a separation agreement, you're probably not 99% chance you're not getting a mortgage anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fair. The other way to protect yourself from having your house sold out from under you is to have title insurance. So I was saying a neighbor of mine, and actually two neighbors, started talking about, oh, well, title insurance. Maybe I should think about that. Why would I think about it? And if you don't have a mortgage, you probably don't have title insurance. If you do have a mortgage, you probably do have title insurance. But if you don't have a mortgage, you might have title insurance if you've bought it. It costs money to put it on your home. If you've just finished paying off a mortgage, you might still have title insurance. But essentially what it does is it makes it so that nobody else can come and sell your house from under you. There's some other stuff that it does in terms of ensuring your lot lines, and if you've got a shed that's encroaching on someone else's property, you still get to keep your shed. They don't get to cut it off and rip off the other side of that sort of stuff. But yeah, it protects you as a homeowner from someone coming along and saying, okay, I own this property, the most popular property address in Canada, 123 Main Street, and I'm going to put it up for sale. And in reality, they don't own it, and they're pulling some sort of fraudulent move where they say that they own it, and they're signing a listing agreement, and they're signing a whole bunch of stuff, pretending that they're the owners of the property, and hiring an unknowing real estate agent or lawyer, et cetera, and defrauding the documents,
fraudulently creating documents.
Exactly. And the house sells, and unbeknownst to everybody, and if maybe the lawyer's in on it, maybe the real estate agent's in on it, maybe not, who knows. They push the thing through, and your house got sold from under you. It's happened. We've heard about it happening in the news, especially
Google it.
Especially during COVID, right? When everything was happening remotely, right? It's happened. So if you own a house, and especially if you are in a demographic of targeted individuals that might be, a little bit older, chances are you probably have your house paid for. If you're in that demographic, you're also targeted more for these types of scams.
And if you're the child, if you're the child of an older person, which you would be, all right. Title insurance is great to have and put on that home, right, as part of your plan. And it's a one-time charge. It lasts as long as you own the house, essentially, and it protects the lender too. That's why they do it that way. It also makes it, for anybody who's just buying, it's going to happen. It used to kind of be a choice. Now it's going to happen, guaranteed on every deal. It also makes your legal fees cheaper in the end, because when you see the laundry list of things that title insurance covers and protects you from, as a consumer, if there's checks and balances out there to find all these things, right? Get the survey, get the water test, whatever else the list that they go through. But if the lawyer had to go out and get all those, one, they're probably paying for a report, which they just pass on to you as a cost because that makes sense. You don't know where to get it. They do, but they have to pay for it. So they just pass that to you. And then it's their time to do that.
That's
So
right.
I've had lawyers tell me that title insurance, 300, 400 bucks, whatever it is, probably saves about $1,500 worth of fees that they may have to charge in certain cases. So it's totally worth that. Totally worth that.
So there's a company called Chicago Title that the lawyers that we work with, they've got a company here called Corman and Company. That's our in-house lawyers. And when they register the property with Chicago Title, it gives the homeowner a not a home insurance, like not a title insurance, but like a home insurance plan where if your
home warranty plan,
home warranty, that's it.
Home warranty plan, yeah.
If your furnace breaks, your AC doesn't work, you have some problems with the plumbing or electrical or whatever, up to like $10,000 in your first year, you pay, I don't know if it's like a $50 or $100 deductible, and they replace your furnace. So,
do you want me to tell you how it works?
Yeah, do it, man.
So it's a home warranty plan. 4 of our lenders have it. It's a separate thing that some companies, so like lenders, have adopted, and they just put it in on every deal. Then you've got title insurers who are doing the same thing as an added value, which is great. It'll cover up to $10,000 a year in parts and labor, as long as whatever's breaking is part of your major system. So they're not going to replace your kitchen, not going to replace your roof.
Right.
HVAC, plumbing, electrical is typically where it sits.
Yeah.
And then it's a $50 charge for any service call. You call them. So I used it twice. So our AC conked out in a heat wave, obviously, and called them. Call the number. Hey, my AC's toast. Yeah, we'll send a dude out there. Sent him out. Buddy checks it. Says, he took the $50. Then he's like, yeah, I think we need to do this much. We need to order these parts. We got to get this gas, whatever. He goes, bill's going to be like $1,500. And then he's like, I'm just going to send it in. Literally off his phone or whatever they give him. He sends it in. There was no problem. He's like, great, we'll get that done. We'll be back tomorrow, and done. So $50, and I did $1,500 worth of work on my AC unit because I have it with my mortgage with my company.
My brother-in-law got a free AC because of it.
Yeah, and a guy that we worked with, his furnace conked out, and they had it replaced within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it's free for the first. Typically, it's free for the first 6 months to a year, depends on the type of deal.
Yeah.
And after that, it works out to be about $20 a month.
Yeah.
And you can opt out anytime for free. So it can be super useful for people.
Yeah, especially as your things start to get a little long in the tooth. You got an older furnace and older AC. Think about adding that in down the road. The other piece I wanted to touch on in terms of making sure someone else doesn't sell your house from under you is the idea of FINTRAC and providing your IDs. A few times I've been using a third-party supplier using intricacies verification to say, here's who I am, signing on to
Interact.
Yeah. I guess
really
hosts it. There's another place called Treehouse you were talking about, or Treefort.
Treefort.
Loved playing in Treeforts when I was a kid. Just want to be clear about that. A lot of fun. Still love doing it as an adult and building them for the kids. But so Interact would verify my ID. I would have to take my phone and take a selfie of myself, and then scan my driver's license, and it would verify that the face that I have matches the face on my driver's license. So a really neat way to do it when you're verifying identity and you're doing it remotely. Apparently it's a necessary way to do it for lawyers now. So again, that level of security should further protect you from someone doing something untoward, selling your house from underneath you. So
yeah, and there's still a delay. Like, this technology is great, and the change that it's done to the real estate industry, I think, is phenomenal in terms of convenience, right? It also, anytime that happens, it opens the door to bad shit, as we've seen. And again, we catch up and we figure it out. I mean, I've got a deal right now where the clients are overseas, and they're coming back to Canada, but they're in the middle of, well, we got to sell, but we got to buy because we need a place to go to. and just like that's the house, like
Yeah.
right. And and among a couple other things we have to deal with, one of the things is that it's what people don't might not realize is that because it's convenient for you doesn't mean the banks are okay with it.
Yeah.
Right. So for example, TD wants ink signatures and like the lawyer to verify like you've seen the person and they're in Canada.
Yeah.
Right. So if they can't be here to sign, that deal's not going to TD. Well, this guy's not flying from wherever he is to get here just for that day. Right. And closings may not match and rah. So we have to get a lender who's cool with doing this.
Right.
And then we have to get a lawyer who's on board with it. And potentially even I'd have to check, but I think there's 5 title insurance companies. And Stewart, maybe Chicago, one of the two. One of them has a rider that protects the bank and the lawyer in the event of like identity fraud. So if something happens and they're like, "Oh, we did this virtually," right? Well, everybody can get sued because someone didn't do their job. Like the fingers just go right? Yeah. So everybody gets protected that way. So that's where it comes in. That's where it comes into that.
Like that Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like you can throw that meme out in 1,000 different situations in real estate. You did it, but he did it. It's like, no,
that's great.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that about wraps it up for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might find this information valuable. You can schedule an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links below. Check out realcollectivemarketing.ca if you're interested in upgrading your marketing game. And you can also download the buyer or seller guides below. Until next time, keep it real.
Collective.